Today's big question, why don't Americans say sorry? Growing up in a different country, I always found Americans to be extremely polite. In fact, when I first moved here, I remember thinking, wow, everyone's just so nice. But over time, I began to notice something interesting. Americans don't really say sorry very much. And I don't mean like Canadians. We're sorry all the time for no reason whatsoever. When someone sneezes, we say sorry. When someone drops something, we say sorry. When someone says thank you, we say sorry. But in America, saying sorry too much is a sign of weakness. Well, the first thing is that what is considered rude or impolite varies from culture to culture. So if you want to avoid saying things that could offend someone, it's important to be aware of these differences. The second thing is that Americans value confidence over politeness. This is why we don't like it when people apologize too much. It comes across as being weak and insincere. If you want to be respected in America, you have to be confident and assertive. This doesn't mean that you shouldn't ever apologize. Of course, if you do something wrong, you should apologize. But don't overdo it. A simple sorry is all that's needed. Americans will only apologize if they do something wrong. And even then, sometimes they don't. My view is that it's better to apologize too much than to never apologize. It's always better to be sincere than to be strategic. Besides, saying sorry doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. Everyone makes mistakes. It's what we do after the mistakes that defines us. Do we run away from our mistakes, or do we try to fix them? Do we blame others for our mistakes, or do we take responsibility? Do we apologize for our mistakes, or do we just let them slide? These are difficult questions, and there are no easy answers. But one thing I can say with certainty is that not apologizing is never the answer. I recall reading an article in the New York Times about workplace apologies. Apparently, it's rare for a company to apologize to its employees. Every culture has its own version of what is and isn't appropriate to say. Instead, Koreans will give you a gift when they do something wrong. Now, the reason why there is no word for sorry in Korean is that Koreans don't feel the need to apologize because they believe that everyone makes mistakes and it's not worth bringing them up. Now, this is probably why Korean Air, the national airline of South Korea, has such a good reputation for customer service. The flight attendants are trained not to get upset by passengers and to just let it slide. For example, in China, it's considered rude to say sorry to your elders or to your boss. In Japan, it's the opposite. Saying sorry too much is seen as a sign of respect. In Germany, people only say sorry when they really mean it. So if a German person apologizes to you, you can be sure that they feel bad about what they did. In France, saying sorry is seen as a sign of weakness. The French are more likely to say, I'm sorry that you feel that way. In other words, they're apologizing for your feelings. And even when a company does make an apology, it's usually vague and insincere. I also read that employees are often confused by apologies because they don't know what to do with them. Some people try to ignore them. Others think that accepting an apology is the same as admitting guilt, so they reject the apology. And others still think that an apology is an admission of weakness, so they punish the person who apologized. Now, you might think that this is just American exceptionalism, but I can assure you that this is not unique to Americans. And in Korea, well, there is no word for sorry in Korean. So what can we learn from this? Now, some people might say, well, Americans don't apologize, so why should I? That's all for today. See you next time.